And we're back. And for some of you, maybe you just clicked the next episode. But for what's probably the majority of you, it has been 6 months? More than 6 months, probably. Probably like 9 months since we last spoke. So yeah, this is going to be episode 157, God willing, and hopefully it will release at the end of January, if all goes according to plan. But welcome back to the Whiskey Noobs podcast. My name is Chris, and I am the host of the show. And we got a lot to talk about today because it has been a while. I am recording this without headphones, so hopefully I keep a good proximity to the mic. If this episode ends up having the volume go up, down, then I'm going to go back to using headphones. But headphones get pretty annoying. They cover up my purdy hair, which I don't like. And, they're just generally annoying having all the cords attached to me while I'm trying to talk. So I'm going to try to record this without any headphones. But we're back, and it has been a wild ride the past 6 to 10 months, whatever it has officially been. And we got a lot to talk about. I want to talk about everything that's happened since then. And for those of you who listened to episode 156, you probably know that it was no small decision for me to quit doing Whiskey Noobs or suspend it temporarily, which at the time I was hoping it was temporary. I didn't know for sure. But if you listen to that episode, then you know that I am really excited to be recording this podcast right now. And I'm excited because I have a new plan of attack. As I'm speaking, I'm noticing dust on this desk because I haven't used it for podcasting in a while. It's good to be back, and I have a new plan of attack to really try to make the videos and the podcast hopefully, I don't know, better. I think it's going to be better, and I hope the videos are going to be better. I have a new camera working on the lighting, so hopefully this, if you're watching on YouTube, will be noticeably better, and if not, it should continually get better as I get better at editing. This is a totally new video and audio setup. Same audio setup, but not feeding into the video the way that it used to. Now I'm recording on a camera that I got, for the tech nerds out there who are wondering what it is, I got a Sony ZV-E10. I don't remember if I got the E10 or the E10 Mark II. The E10, because it was on sale, because the Mark II came out, and I thought this should be good enough for my needs. So I've never used that nice of a camera before. I've usually used cell phones, so we will definitely see how that goes. Same audio setup as before, but like I said, no headphones. So that's enough of the logistics. Let's get into it. So let's talk about what's happened since we last spoke. I think it was March that the last episode came out, or maybe it was March that I recorded it and it came out later. But a lot has happened since then. March of 2024, that would be, if you're listening to this in 2025. So a lot happened. Right about the time that I was wrapping up Whiskey Noobs, I was doing a lot of traveling for my job and then some traveling for just pleasure, just for fun. And so that was taking up a good chunk of my time. You add on top of that I just started the Perfect Pairing Club with Adam from Dreamer Cigars. As of the recording of this, we are revamping it, so it should actually be getting really cool for 2025. We're working on a lot of stuff for that. And that has been a lot of fun. So just to recap, it is a club that I'm working on with Adam from Dreamer Cigars. We record a podcast every week, and we smoke one cigar and do 3 pairings. Usually those pairings are whiskey, but sometimes they're tequila, sometimes they're coffee. Usually we're looking at whiskeys. And we record those 3 pairings. We run through what we like about them, what we don't like about them, and we post those onto the site. We bundle up every cigar of the week, so we do one every week, like I mentioned. We bundle them all up into a monthly subscription so that you get 4 or 5 cigars every week, depending on how many Mondays there are in that month. But you get 4 or 5 cigars every month, depending on how many Mondays there are in that month, so that you end up with 1 cigar every week. And that has just been a ton of fun. That has really awakened my love for cigars. You may have heard me mention before that cigars are what got me into whiskey. I was into cigars before whiskey. Then I fell so deeply in love with whiskey, I kind of forgot about how much I liked cigars. So that's been a lot of fun because it's really revamped my love for cigars. And I forgot how much I enjoy them. It has also really helped me to respect the art of pairing because I used to think pairing was just like you take thing A and you take thing B, you put them together and you get a slightly better version of A plus B. But I've had some pairings now that are what Adam calls ultra pairings. I don't think he coined that term, but he taught me that they're ultra pairings, which is you get something that's totally not even a flavor that you would have gotten from the whiskey or the cigar. But when you put them together, you get this totally new thing. And when you experience that for the first time, that is amazing. It's pretty unbelievable. I'm going to move my recorder out of the camera frame here. I just noticed it. Sorry. But it's pretty unbelievable, and it has made me just have this new respect for pairing, and it's just been so much fun. So I'm so glad that I had the chance to do that. And I mentioned before, I don't want anybody to blame that for Whiskey Noobs taking a back seat. If there's anything that you can blame, it's what I'm about to talk about, because I mentioned. But yeah, so let me wrap up my thoughts here on Perfect Pairing Club. That is still going on. So if you want to check that out, if you're interested in cigars, please go look at it. I'm not using that to support this podcast, although it supports me, of course, financially. So in a way, it's supporting this podcast. We're going to talk about supporting this specific podcast, though, here in a few minutes. But it is a lot of fun. So you can go check that out at perfectpairingclub.com. There's also at Perfect Pairing Podcast on Instagram. And we're really working on building up those pages, building up those podcasts. And those didn't take too much away from Whiskey Noobs as a podcast because I just have to show up for those podcasts. I didn't have to do any of the editing or anything like I do for Whiskey Noobs. So don't blame that. If you want to blame something for the big pause in Whiskey Noobs, you can blame the solo blind. So I mentioned before I was working on something in the background. And I think I was being very vague about it. I was just like, there's a lot going on that I can't tell you guys about. And the big thing going on was the solo blind. I was working on designing, prototyping, and eventually launching the solo blind. If you haven't seen it yet, the solo blind, actually, I have it sitting next to me because we're going to use it later on in this episode. The solo blind is this guy right here, which is a blind tasting apparatus, device, whatever you want to call it, so that you can set up your own single blind tasting. So they're single blind because you know what you're putting in the glasses, but they're blind because you don't know which glass is which. You don't know what it is that you're drinking in each glass. And so this took a lot of design and development. We had a lot of prototypes. We had just a complete, I don't want to say uphill battle, just a really in-depth design working on it. I say we, I'm talking about myself and my business partner. Because eventually I said, I can't do this alone, and I got a hold of one of my really good buddies who's a fantastic engineer, and I said, I need your help bringing this to life. And so we launched the solo blind in December. We sent out our first, not samples, but our first sales in about mid-December. And as of the airing of this show, we should either be shipping our next shipment or we should be getting ready to release another shipment. So keep an eye out for that. But that was taking up a lot of the time. That was the thing that was really eating up all of my time because the design work, coming up with the website, figuring out the logistics, how we're going to manufacture this thing, how we're going to box them up, how we're going to sell. I mean, as of right now, we're boxing up all of these by hand. We're building them by hand and sending them to you guys. So it was a huge time sink. And I thought, I need to commit myself to this so that I can get this released before Christmas 2024, which thank goodness we did. And I can't believe we made that date because it has been a lot of design and development work. So that was really the thing eating up a lot of my time. And I think I may have even mentioned, if I didn't, now I am. I may have even mentioned, I think a lot of you are going to be really happy when you see the things I have going on in the background, but I can't tell you about them yet. And that was the big one where I'm like, I think this is bringing a lot of value to the whiskey community. I truly designed this thing because I wanted it. I'm about to use it here in a few minutes, and if I didn't have it, I would have had to have my wife do all the scrambling and the labeling and give me a little note card that says which whiskey is which, and that is a lot of unnecessary work if you have a solo blind, which is why I came up with it, because I wanted one. So that was really the big time sink, I would say, that was taking a lot of... It was a big driving factor behind why we paused the podcast. But we're back, and I'm so happy to be back. And I'm not going to be able to do it weekly like I used to, so I am going to dive into the plan here in a second, what we're going to do moving forward. But I'm just glad to be able to be back. Like I've mentioned many times, the podcast audience is just the most, I would say, loyal and the most connected audience that I have. You guys tend to care a lot more about what it is that I'm working on. You tend to interact a lot more, and it's a lot of fun, when you have like I think 150,000 on Instagram right now. It's hard to have that connection with folks, but with the podcast, I'd love to get to 150,000 downloads every episode, but we're not there yet. We're a far cry from there. If we were there, we'd be making probably a lot of money, hopefully. But we're not there yet, but the nice part of that is it's a lot more connected, like I mentioned, a lot more one-on-one, closer to one-on-one at least. And especially with the Patreon page, which we used to have, which we are bringing back. So that brings me to the plan moving forward. Let's talk about what the podcast is going to look like, and then I promise you there is still whiskey stuff to be done in this episode. We're going to be tasting some bottled and bond bourbons, talking about bottled and bond, and talking about which one I like the most. And I grabbed some that I have no idea if they taste similar or not because I haven't drank them very much. So we're going to see. I don't know. So we're going to get to there. But first, let's talk about the plan moving forward, at least briefly. Moving forward, there's going to be one episode per month. So one episode of Whiskey Noobs per month for the foreseeable future. That being said, the goal with launching one episode every month is to get back to one episode every week. And I will explain how you can help with that goal. Of course, supporting the show, whether it's financially or just through your support, your liking, your sharing. That will go a very long way. I think before I was a little bit secretive, or I played my cards a little close to the vest about how I was determining whether things were worth doing or not. This time around, I've learned a lot, and I'm going to be very transparent with you. I'm basically trying to make this into something that I can look at and I can say that is worth the amount of time that I spend on it. Because at the end of the day, this is very rewarding and I love doing it, but it's so much time. So of course, I'm trying to get some financial back out of it. I'm trying to raise money to improve it, and also just to be able to say, okay, this is worth the amount of time that I'm spending on it. Because you got to be able to justify that when the other option would be making a promo video for a brand and providing for my family through that promo for the brand. Things like that. I do live in the real world. I do have finances, and that's just the truth of it. So, as much fun as it is, I need to be able to justify the huge amount of time that it is to produce a weekly podcast. So if we get there, this will go back to being weekly, but for now, this is going to be a monthly show, and every episode is going to have a topic, and then eventually, as the Patreon grows a little bit, we're going to have Q&As. The Q&As moving forward are going to be only for patrons in order to limit it a little bit, because before it got a little bit out of hand where I just could not even get a tenth of the questions that I was being asked. If we're not getting a lot of questions from the patrons, maybe I will move back to selecting a few questions from just the general audience, people on Instagram probably. But right now it's going to have a topic, and that topic might be something like what today is. I'm going to do a brief brush up on bottled and bond bourbon, and then we're also going to do a tasting of 4 bottled and bond bourbons. I'm going to probably work in a lot more blind tastings because that's what I love to do. I think that's the most fun. And it also, I think, provides you guys the most value because it's like, hey, this is clearly an unbiased opinion. So I want to do a topic like that in every episode. Maybe some interviews, but at least for the moment, those are going to be pretty limited. Mainly because I want to get back to the experiments and the fun things that Whiskey Noobs originally was. And also... Well, first of all, I want to try out this episode format and really give it a fair shake. And I want to slowly alter the episode formats to get closer to what everybody's requesting or what everybody likes. I think last time around I was really sporadic. It was like, just try all of the stuff. And then you can't tell what's working because you're just trying all of the stuff. So this time I want to be more controlled, I guess is what I'm saying. So that's going to be the general episode format. And then, as I mentioned, questions are going to come from the Patreon page. So the Patreon page should already be launched by the time you're listening to this, and it should be in the show notes, so you can go down there and you can click and you can check it out. The Patreon page is going to be the way to support this show. The goal is to get all of the support from the Patreon and not have sponsorships. That way you don't have any commercials. I am a podcast lover, of course, because I produce 2 podcasts. Well, I don't produce the Perfect Pairing one, but I'm in 2 podcasts, so you might assume that I love listening to them, and I do. And I get so sick of skipping ads. For me, it's just annoying, especially if you have a Patreon and ads, then it's just like, so you're getting support. But I understand the need for both. I don't want to criticize people who do that. my goal is to get where we need to be financially solely through Patreon support. And that is where you guys come in if you want to see the show continue to grow and if you want to see it become a weekly show again. No promises, but I'm just saying that is how I'm going to get there if I'm going to get there. I'm going to probably continue this for like 3 to 4 months, maybe 6 months. And if we're not seeing the growth that we need, of course, I'm going to adjust and try new things. But that's really it's going to be mostly like a 4 to 6 month test run to see if this is a sustainable thing that we're doing here. So the Patreon, number one way to support this show. What is the Patreon going to be? I am revamping it. It's going to be different from the way that it used to be. First of all, patrons are going to get to hear this podcast 1 week early, so long as the podcast is a monthly podcast. If we move to weekly, maybe it'll be a few days early or something like that. But as long as it's a week or a monthly podcast, you'll get it a full week early. I'm going to get all the editing and stuff done, post a link to YouTube that only patrons can access, and then I will a week later come out with the general one on all the platforms, Spotify and YouTube and all that. So that's one of the big benefits. Also, you're going to be able to submit questions, as I mentioned. Right now, I'm planning to only have Q&As from patrons. So I will have a Discord where you can ask questions. You can ask throughout the entire week, but I will probably post every week and just say, hey, reminder, get in your questions if you have any. And then there's also going to be a separate Discord channel just for patrons. If you want to talk about anything, we really can, but for me, I will probably be talking mostly about the podcast, getting your guys' feedback on it, things that you'd like to see improved, what you liked about this most recent episode, or if you have questions, hey, what happened with this episode? Why'd you do that? Why'd you do this? Anything like that. Hey, if I interviewed this person, what did you actually think of them? Anything really. That's what that Discord's going to be for. And then there'll be a separate one, like I mentioned, specifically for Q&As that you want me to answer on the show. And you can also, those Q&As, you're going to be able to DM me as well. So I'll set a reminder in there, but if you'd rather private message me on Discord, I totally understand. If you don't want people knowing what your question was, or you're worried that you might sound dumb, I won't think you sound dumb, I promise you that, but I understand it. When I'm not behind this camera, I am a little bit of a socially anxious person, so totally get that. The next thing, and this is a big one actually, I'm going to try this, and I hope it works. I'm going to try to move all the reviews to the Patreon page. So all of the bottles that I am sent by brands to review, I'm going to try to do all of the reviews, every single bottle that I'm sent, I'm going to do a gut reaction on Patreon. And then the bottles that I especially like, I will probably do like 30-second reviews like I've been doing on Instagram. But every single bottle that I'm sent from brands will no longer be posted to Instagram. It'll only be the ones that I like. Whereas Patreon, every single bottle that I'm sent, I'm going to do a gut reaction. And mainly the reason for that is reviews where I give you flavor notes and I say, I think I kind of like that. Those don't really do well on Instagram. And reviews where I'm just like, yeah, I don't think this is probably worth buying, but I think it tastes good. That doesn't do well on Instagram. Instagram really likes two types of reviews. This is the worst thing that I've ever tasted, and I don't like doing those reviews. Or this is the best thing I've ever tasted. So I'm pretty much going to limit Instagram to this is the best thing I've ever tasted. Not necessarily, but you know what I mean. This one stood out above the crowd. So Patreon, if you're the type who you're like, well, I want flavor notes. I want to know why you liked it, why you didn't like it. I want the unedited reaction. That's where Patreon's going to come in, because that's where I can post things like that without having to worry about appeasing an algorithm. If I post those to Instagram, they don't perform well. Here's the thing. It's not just a video that doesn't perform well. It also, at least in my opinion, and I think most people agree, it affects my overall performance on Instagram. TikTok's really good about this video can do amazing and this video can do terrible, and it doesn't really matter. In my opinion, the trends that I see on Instagram, if I have a few videos do bad in a row, then it's like a snowball effect. It gets worse and worse and worse. So that is the big reason for me to move them to Patreon. Also, it's going to be a time saver because I don't edit heavily on Patreon. It's pretty much just, here's my thoughts. Whereas on Instagram, if you want people to stick around, you have to have all this heavy editing and music and all that. So that's why I'm moving them to Patreon. And I really think that'll be a good benefit, because the folks who specifically want my unadulterated, not super highly edited opinion, just what it is that I'm thinking, you can go to Patreon. You can find it there. And eventually, I want to add giveaways to Patreon, probably bottle giveaways, at least to the top tier. Eventually I want to add those, but I obviously can't afford to until there's enough patrons to cover those giveaways. Otherwise I'll be losing money by having a Patreon. So I haven't figured out the numbers for that yet, but the plan is to add those as well. And then, as I mentioned, we're going to see how that goes for like 3 to 4 months. And then we are going to, we're going to either ramp up or crank down from there. We're going to see. So I can't stress that enough. If you want to support the show, please consider looking at the Patreon. At least just click that link and take a look at it and see if you like it. And if not, give me some feedback. Let me know why you like it or why you don't like it. And that would just be very, very greatly appreciated. I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate the patrons. I have certain goals that I haven't officially worked out. I might disclose those at a certain point of like what dollar amount or what number of patrons we need to get to. I don't have that worked out in that level of resolution yet, at least as of the recording of this. Hopefully by the release of this, I do. So that's kind of where we're going. Increased transparency, really trying to increase how natural and transparent this podcast is, because I realized I looked back over the course of the 3 years I did produce this podcast, and I thought that was really my favorite, is when I felt like I was talking to a group of my friends. I didn't feel like I was trying to produce this massive production value show. And I think that's what podcasts are really meant to be. You know, they're meant to be a lot more natural like that. Okay, let me get off my soapbox, especially for those of you who are looking for bourbon-specific stuff. So if you've been hitting 15-second skip, stop hitting it now, because we're about to talk about bourbon. This episode, this is a little bit of a weird one because we had to do so much recapping. Normally it'll be like maybe a quick recap, life update in the beginning, full body of the episode, and then questions at the end. This one's going to be a little bit quicker of a blind tasting, or at least I'm going to edit it down so that it's a little bit quicker. And we're going to talk about bottled and bond bourbons. Okay, so I just grabbed the bourbons that we're going to be tasting. We got 4 bourbons today. They're all bottled and bond. We've got Hard Truth's Sweet Mash Wheated Bourbon. This is a bottled and bond bourbon. We have Watershed's, I think they just call this bottled and bond. It's just their bottled and bond 4-year bourbon. I don't know if they disclose the mash bill or not. Yeah, anyhow. We've got the most expensive bottle in this tasting by far, and that is Old Fitzgerald. This is their spring 2024 release of their bottled and bond. It is a 10-year bottle. This bottle I bought for $140 plus tax, and if you buy it on secondary, it could be like over $500 in a lot of different states. Not even secondary, but just in states that don't have controlled pricing. Very expensive bottle. I did do a blind tasting of it before, and I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit disappointed. I think it's delicious. I think it's a fantastic, yummy bourbon that I'm so glad that I own, but I don't think it's worth anywhere near $500. I'm not even sure if it's worth the $140 that I paid for it, but it's still, I mean, over it's probably worth over $100. It's a very, very good bourbon. And then we've got our curveball, which is our really cheap bourbon. That is the J.W. Dant Bottled and Bond, which when I was doing budget bourbon battles, budget bourbon minesweeper? Yeah, that's what I call it, budget bourbon minesweeper. This thing was killing it. I might need to bring budget bourbon minesweeper back. I don't know why. I think I quit doing it. Fun fact, a little behind the scenes for you guys. Instagram was flagging, like any video where I showed myself sipping alcohol, it was getting flagged. So they've really been cracking down on alcohol, and I think that's why I quit with budget bourbon minesweeper. But I love the J.W. Dant. It's really, really tasty for the price. Should be very noticeably cheaper than these in the blind, but we're about to see. And the reason I want to compare these is bottled and bond bourbon, if you don't know what it is, or bottled and bond liquor, whiskey, anything. If you don't know what it is, it was a law that came out, I believe, this is off the cuff, so I apologize if I mess something up. I believe it was in 1897, and it was the first consumer protection law from the United States. It was the first time that the government said, we're going to make sure people can't sell you something that is not actually what they say it is and could hurt you. We're going to make sure that whatever you're being sold is what you say it is. And so this was the first law that did that. And it was because people were selling whiskeys that were not whiskey, or maybe they were colored with tobacco spit, and maybe they had formaldehyde in them to give them a little bit of a kick. All kinds of weird, disgusting, nasty things were being sold as whiskey, so the government came out with this law. There's a ton of things you have to do to fulfill the bottled and bond law, so in order to label something as bottled and bond. And eventually, we didn't really need that anymore, so we have plenty of whiskeys that aren't bottled and bond now. But the idea was, if it was labeled bottled and bond, you knew that the government watched it enough to say, this is whatever they're labeling it as. This is bourbon. This has been officially watched by the government to say that it is what they say it is. Nowadays, we don't need that as much, but people still do it as a little bit of a hat tip to that era. And also, what I love about bottled and bond bourbons nowadays is they're really good comparison level, because bottled and bond has to be aged at least 4 years. It has to all be distilled in the same distilling season at the same distillery. What does that mean? That means some distillers will have multiple different distilleries. They'll blend them together and they'll make something, or they will have one distillery, but they'll blend something from 2022 with 2023 with 2018. They'll blend all that together. There's nothing wrong with doing any of that. But for bottled and bond, it has to be in one distilling season. It has to be at least 4 years old. It has to be aged in a government-bonded warehouse. This was the way the government would surveil, essentially, the warehouses and just make sure that it was not being altered. It wasn't being messed with. And did I mention the 100 proof already? It has to be exactly 100 proof. Maybe I mentioned that already. There's some other stuff, but those are the important ones, because I feel like a bottled and bond bottle is a really good way to have like a milestone's not the right word, almost like a benchmark. It's like, it's a really easily comparable bottle. They're all the same proof. They're all at least 4 years old. You know, if you've been tasting bourbon for a while, between 0 and 4 years, you have this huge change in flavor. After 4 years, don't get me wrong, there's still a change in flavor. But especially in like the 4 to 6 year, 4 to 8 year range, you get a lot of very similar flavors. So it puts things on a similar playing field. And a lot of bottled and bonds tend to be closer to that 4 year range. Obviously, this Old Fitz is a high-end bottle, so it's a 10 year. But it gives you this nice level playing field to compare different brands across. Granted, this tasting that I'm doing specifically is not as much of a level playing field because we have some vastly different price ranges, but that's on purpose. It's because I want to compare these super differently price range bourbons and see if I get them in the right order. So that's what bottled and bond is. That's why I'm doing a bottled and bond tasting today. I just thought it would be fun. You know, bottled and bond bourbon is like something that runs deep in the American heritage. Thought it'd be a fun one to kick off this new episode. And I have a deep affinity for bottled and bond bourbons. I really enjoy them. So I'm going to set up the tasting using my handy dandy solo blind here. And I will also be spitting these out because I have some things I have to do later today and I need to be able to walk straight for them. So I'll cut out all the spitting so you guys don't have to see it if you're watching the video version. Let me get this set up quickly and then we're going to get into the tasting. So if you haven't seen how the solo blind works, it's currently spinning. You can spin it here with the cover on it. And it's got all of the bourbons in here. And they're each labeled with this little dry erase dog tag. I probably won't do this every episode. Maybe I will. Every episode that I use this. But I just want people to know who haven't seen it before. How I'm doing this blind tasting, every bourbon is labeled with a dog tag that you can kind of see here. And that dog tag is dry erase so that I know which is which. So I put them all on here. I spin it. So now I don't know which one's 1, which one's 2, which one's 3, and which one's 4. But I do know the order to some extent. So like if I were to say, oh, I know that this one's the Old Fitz, then I would probably know, okay, next to Old Fitz, I put Watershed. And then next to Watershed, I put J.W. Dant. So to avoid that, what I always do is I take the cover off, and I take all of them off, and then I reorganize them, and then I put the cover back on. And now, unless I have like 1,000 IQ, there's zero chance I'm going to be able to figure out which order all of these were in. So that's why I do that. And then I spin it again, and now I definitely don't know which of these is which. Take them all off, and then we do our tastings. I should have grabbed... This does come with tasting sheets. I haven't kept any for myself yet. I've only sent them with solo blinds. Get that guy out of the way. Okay. So once again, we're tasting Old Fitzgerald, Bottled and Bond, their spring 2024 release. We're tasting Watershed, Bottled and Bond, J.W. Dant, Bottled and Bond, and then Hard Truth's Sweet Mash Wheated Bourbon, Bottled in Bond. I thought there was something I wanted to say before I get started, but maybe not. I guess not. I'll just say cheers then. I'm going to do a quick tasting, edit all that out so you don't have to watch me spit for 10 minutes, and we'll come back and talk about what I'm tasting. So far, I'm struggling. I'm going to make excuses for my palate right away. It must not be good today. I don't know. Maybe I burn it or something. The roof of my mouth's extra burny today. Like it feels like I burned it on some food and didn't realize it. I don't know. Maybe I'm just making excuses. So far, I'm struggling. These taste pretty similar. I think the J.W. Dant is pretty noticeably different. I'm thinking it's this one all the way to my right. But overall, we're tasting fairly similar, or I should say we're tasting similar quality. I've noticed some differences in flavors. If I remember correctly, the third from my left, I'm considering these 1, 2, 3, and 4, 1 being all the way on my left. So number 3, it's feeling, it's tasting a little bit like banana-y or a little bit different. But other than that, they're all tasting pretty similar. So I definitely need to do a deeper dive. I think I need to focus more on the noses. I think I blazed through them a little bit quickly to get into the tasting. But I will say, at least, I'm not going to say I have the most refined palate, especially I smoke a lot of cigars now, so that definitely affects things. But I feel like I'm pretty good at knowing if something's a good bourbon or a bad bourbon, and I feel like it should be more obvious than it is right now. We'll see. Maybe my palate's just that bad today, but with the large difference in price, I think J.W. Dant's like less than $20. The Old Fitz I already mentioned is $140. I think Watershed is $50, maybe $60, and I want to say that about the same for Hard Truth. I think it's $60. I'll look up those prices here at the end when I reveal which is which, but there should be a pretty big price difference here, and aside from what I think is the J.W. Dant, it's not super obvious. I'm going to dive in a little bit deeper, but that's just my initial thoughts. Okay, I definitely have more of an opinion this time around, so my palate's finally warming up, hopefully. I think number 1, the one furthest on my left, so over here, if you're watching on the video, I think number 1 has the most, it's got like a grassy, sweet flavor. It's got like freshly cut hay type of a flavor, but along with, maybe it's like a cornfield in the fall or in the summer, late summer. That type of a smell. That might be a little bit specific, but I promise I'm not crazy. My buddy is a farmer, and I've ridden along with him plenty of times when they're harvesting the corn. You get that smell, which happens in the fall. But it's got that type of a vibe to it, along with like some caramel, some vanilla sweetness like that. Number 2 has the banana flavor. I was thinking it was number 3. It was not. It was number 2. Has like this almost banana or like sweet candy flavor. Maybe it's closer to like a Twizzler. I know it's very different, but it's like candy is the best way I can describe it. But not a sour candy, a sweet candy. So that's like number 2's giving me that type of a vibe. Ooh, I just realized as I say that makes me think maybe it's Hard Truth. We'll see. Number 3 is the most noticeably what people would conventionally call smooth. It tastes the lowest proof, even though these are all 100 proof. I'm gonna guess it's the Old Fitz right now. Mind you that I reserve the right to change my mind because I'm gonna do another tasting of these, but I think it's the Old Fitz. Very smooth, very deep brown sugar barrel-y flavor. Not like overly oaky, but just like sweet brown sugar coated barrel almost, or something like that, which is what I remember the Old Fitz tasting like. I've barely had Watersheds bottled in bond, especially anytime lately. I haven't had J.W. Dant since Budget Bourbon Minesweeper, and I've almost never had the Hard Truth Sweet Mash weeded bourbon bottled in bond, whatever the name of it was, except I had it on the Perfect Pairing podcast, and I've had it a couple times before that, but I haven't had it much since then. So a lot of these bottles sit, and I don't drink them often because I'm doing different reviews of different things, so just trust me on that. The one I've had the most recently is the Old Fitz, which is going to make me feel really sad if I get it wrong. And then J.W. Dant, number 4. I'm almost certain it's J.W. Dant. If it's not, I'm going to be really sad for whoever it is. I apologize to that brand right now because it tastes the least expensive. It tastes like it's got that stale flavor that you get on the bottom shelf, which is totally fine. For its price range, J.W. Dant is phenomenal. But compared to these heavier hitters, I think it's pretty noticeable, especially when you go from Old Fitz, what I think is Old Fitz, to what I think is J.W. Dant. One more round of tasting, and then I'm going to reveal these, I think, if I feel a little bit more confident. Sometimes I get lost down a rabbit hole of tasting because I'm like, one more time to make sure I know what these are before I embarrass myself. And then I do it one more time, and I'm like, I don't know. It's going to be equally embarrassing no matter what. It's going to be equally scary no matter what. So let's just reveal it, right? So for full disclosure, I did this whole tasting in about 15 minutes, maybe even a little bit less than that. So, this isn't the most in-depth tasting in the entire world, but if the Old Fitz is that much better, it should be noticeable, right? Here I go. I'm nosing them as I'm talking to you guys. But I think it should be very noticeable if it's that much better. And I think, so 2 and 3 were duking it out for a minute. I'm not going to lie to you. Excuse me. I think 3 is the Old Fitz because I think it has the most just noticeably high quality mouthfeel. If it's not the Old Fitz, I'm incredibly impressed by whatever bourbon this is because the mouthfeel is super nice. These are all the same proof. The one that's number 3 that I think is the Old Fitz drinks like it's lower proof. It tastes as the flavor of a higher proof bourbon, but the feel is like a lower proof bourbon. It's real oily. It coats your whole tongue, but it doesn't burn. Like it doesn't have very much burn to it, especially in the beginning. Later on a little bit, but I think that makes it the Old Fitz. So I'm going to run through which ones I think is which. Overall, these 3 here that I think are the higher end ones were all fantastic. So they were all really good bourbons, but the Old Fitz should be noticeably better than the other 2. So I think number 1 is the Watershed. I'm going to look up the price of it right now. OHLQ needs to verify my age. So this is going to be the Ohio price. Watershed. Distillery bourbon, 4-year. No, wait. No, I need their bottled and bond. Not that guy. Watershed. Old Fashioned. Do they have their bottled and bond? Come on. Let's see if we can find it. OHLQ is being difficult. The search on OHLQ is not the greatest. Okay. Watershed bottled and bond is $50. Hard Truth, I don't believe, is on OHLQ. Oh, they added them, maybe. Hard Truth. They only have the Sweet Mash Rye. Okay. Hard Truth, weeded, bottled in bond. Let's see. What are people saying it costs? Looks like it's $51 on Total Wine's website. I want to say it's $60 MSRP. You already know the Old Fitz is like $140 in Ohio, and the JW Dant is less than $20. I think I paid $20 for that bottle. Okay, I think number 1 is the Watershed. Number 1 is the Old Fitz. See, this keeps happening in tastings. Hold on, I'm going to take one more sip of it. I stand by that. There is a bitter flavor on the finish. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of complexity, but all 3 of these have a lot of complexity. And there's a bitter flavor on the finish that's sitting on the back of my tongue. It's really good. I would not pay $140 for this again. Now, I want to be clear, though. They do these in batches. They do these in releases. And I've heard amazing things about other releases of Old Fitz. I haven't heard much about this one, but for me, that is just not a winner. So if that's the Old Fitz, I'm just going to assume that the other one is the Watershed, but I could be wrong about that. Number 2, I thought was the Hard Truth. It could really be anything, because I don't know the last 3 very well at all. Number 2 is... Get out of here. Get out of here right now. Hold on. Hold on a minute. I'm not telling you. You have to sit in suspense. Okay. Number 2 is JW Dant. I'm mind blown by this right now. Number 2 is delicious. Like, that is... Okay. This is weird. Maybe my palate's just bad today. I'm like... I don't want to say panicking right now. I'm having my earth shattered right now. Okay. Let's just keep on keeping on. I'm so sorry to whoever number 4 is. Number 3 is Watershed. That makes sense to me, actually. I'm a really big fan of Watersheds. I like their bottled and bond. Not a big fan of their 80 proof. But that mouthfeel. That mouthfeel on the Watershed bottled and bond. I'm so sorry that this won for everybody who's not in Ohio, because I don't... They might ship out of Ohio now. They might. But wow, that is so tasty. That's going to be featured in some reels here soon. Which means the last one is Hard Truth, and that just has a bitterness to me. Let me try again. See, this here, this is why I like doing bottled and bond. Hold on. Because these are all the same proof. And that reveals to me harshness, because there's a difference between harshness and burn, right? Something can burn more but be higher proof. These are all the same proof. And it must be the other Hard Truth bottled and bond. One of them I really like, one of them I didn't like, and I thought it was this one that I liked. Maybe it's the other one. One of them I did think was a little bit harsh, which must be this one. But at any rate, it reveals like this hard truth just has a harshness to me. Like it has a bitterness. Like when you taste it immediately, there's like a bitterness. And I absolutely love Hard Truth's Sweet Mash Rye. Totally different flavor profile, totally different mash bill, totally different, whole different ball game. Okay, I don't want to trash them as a brand because I love their stuff. They're actually my second barrel pick. I like them that much, and I have declined barrel picks before. This one specifically, their Sweet Mash Wheated Bourbon, batch number. I don't know if there's a batch number, but it was bottled in spring of 2024. Not too big of a fan of that. So it must be their 4-grain bottled in bond that I liked more. So that's the loser for this blind tasting. I'm so sorry, Hard Truth. But then in the next place we've got Old Fitz. Old Fitz lost to JW. That just like, I feel like that makes me look like an idiot. But I promise you that's the truth. That's just the truth. That's the Old Fitz. On the end, like at first it tastes good. It tastes like a bourbon. There's like a nuttiness to it. There's, like I mentioned, that grassy kind of hay flavor, which made me think, I wonder if this is Old Forester, Old Fitz, if this is from Heaven Hill. But I was like, but it doesn't taste good enough to be the Old Fitz. But there's just this, I can't describe it any other way. There's a bitterness. There's a bitterness as it sits on your tongue that I'm not digging. I'm not digging it. It's still there. It's this bitterness. It's different from like a sherried whiskey like I've talked about before, but it's like if you licked an envelope. I'm so disappointed. I was really happy to score this bottle for so much money, and now I'm not like, I don't think I'll keep it very long. I'll let everybody try it because I'm like, it's just okay. Now, JW Dant, I almost feel like this had to be a fluke. The only thing I would say that I overlooked with the JW Dant, and it's easy to say this in hindsight, right? I would say that it's very one-dimensional. I'd say that there's not a lot of other stuff going on. It's got that banana flavor, which should have given it away, but I was trying to just not even think about what these have tasted like in the past. I was trying to just be unbiased, right? The only thing that I would say is maybe the JW Dant is one-dimensional. When you taste it, you get kind of the same thing over and over again, which is a difficult thing to notice when you're doing 4 at a time. But I'm not gonna deny this. I mean, I genuinely thought it was better. I thought it had such a nice, sweet flavor to it. Really tasty. Noticeably different. And then the Watershed, I have to give them their flowers. That was just all around great. It has this nice, sweet, oaky, brown sugar flavor. Really nice mouthfeel. Really conventionally smooth, what you would call smooth. But still covers your tongue. All around a fantastic pour. I will give them their flowers. This one, I would say, hands down, has won this blind tasting. The Old Fitz and the JW Dant is hard for me. It's a hard pill for me to swallow. I'm going to release this episode unless, like, the audio and video, hopefully the audio and video get messed up, so I don't have to. So I don't have to embarrass myself. No, I'm kidding. I'm going to release it. I mean, this is what it is. This is how blind tastings go. Maybe I will do a follow-up where I taste all of these again and see if maybe my palate's just jacked up. Hopefully my palate's just jacked up. I was drinking whiskey last night, and maybe that messed up my palate. I don't know. I'm not going to make excuses for it, though. That is what it is, man. So, this tasting, number 1, we had Watershed. Number 2, we somehow had JW Dant. Number 3, we had Old Fitz, the most expensive bottle by leaps and bounds. And number 4, we had Hard Truth's Sweet Mash Wheated Bourbon. Wow. Yeah. If you had the JW Dant, or not JW Dant, the Old Fitz, specifically the spring of 2024, I would really like to hear your opinion. I'm wondering if this is just a bad release. When I tasted it originally, this is embarrassing, but it's just the truth. It's why blind tastings are so important. When I tasted it originally, I was like, this is phenomenal. This bourbon is amazing. Which just goes to show how biased you are when you're looking forward to trying something. Because then I did a blind tasting Instagram reel where it tied for first. Or maybe it came in first, but it came in first by a razor margin. I was between it and Knob Creek 12-year. And I was like, that's wild. I thought it was going to win by leaps and bounds, and it did not. And now this. And so it's continually, every time I blind taste it, it's almost going lower. If I do any more blind tastings, I'll probably be able to tell what it is, which stinks, right? It's hard to control for blind tastings if that's the case. But I don't want to judge Old Fitz. This is the only bottle that I've ever had. Maybe their other releases are better, but this one for me is just not a win. It's not a win. All right. Well, I told you I wanted to be more candid and more transparent in the new Whiskey Noobs podcast. Other episodes won't be this long either. I just had all that stuff to recap in the beginning. We're going to try to stick to like a 30-minute to an hour episode. But, hey, I told you I was going to keep it real. There's nothing more real than being so epically wrong in a blind tasting. That is what it is, though. That was a lot of fun. That's why I do them. It's fun. It's scary, but it's fun. So, Watershed, moral of the story is I want to give Watershed Distillery their flowers. To even do that well, even if they didn't win, even if it was a fluke, whatever it was, to do that well, you got to be very good quality, and that was delicious. So, kudos to Watershed on that for their bottled and bond bourbon. Okay, guys. No Q&As this episode because the Patreon's just relaunching. Like later on, the body of the episode will be a little bit shorter, like I said, and then we'll have Q&As at the end. And I don't think there's anything else that I really have to say. I think I'm just flabbergasted. I'm going to go try to nurse my ego on this one. I'll see you guys next month, or if you join the Patreon, I'll see you a week earlier than that. Thank you all so very much for listening. Please consider telling people about the podcast, sharing it, liking things on social media, whatever, in order to get this more out there, especially if you want to see it become weekly again and keep going and building steam. So thank you all so much for listening. I'm so excited to be back. I can't wait to produce more of these episodes. I am so thankful for each and every one of you. Have a great month. I will leave you with learn to drink, drink to learn. Hi there. If you're still listening to this, then I'm going to assume that you enjoyed the show. So please consider taking a moment to leave a 5-star rating or review and subscribe on whatever platform it is that you're watching/listening to this on. And as always, please, please, please drink responsibly. Cheers.